Well, good morning, all of those out there in Ascension Land. Hopefully you can all hear me. And if you can't hear me, this is Ed Page speaking, by the way. If you can't hear me, please type something in the little question bar so Matt can see that you can't hear us, and we'll figure something else out to do, which I don't know what that thing will be. Anyway, let's get started. Matt, if you could go to the next slide when you have a chance.
Yep.
One more. All right. There we go. Great. So motivational quote of the day. It's never too late to be what you might have been. So something to think about for today and for the future. And let's get into the stuff today. And so this is a reminder for myself. You remember the first meeting we had, someone asked, can we see the recordings for these? And I realized, yes, you can, but you actually have to press the record button at the start. So Matt, if you have not pressed the record button, please do. So also, we can't unmute everyone simultaneously. So those of you that are out in Cyberland, we can't hear you, but Matt can listen to you, or I can see your questions on the on a little, I guess, chat thing. And so use that chat area for questions and or for anything that needs to be, if you want to be unmuted or anything of that nature. So, all right, so next slide. All right, so three things we want to talk about today. March Madness Redo, financial update, and then Wounded Warriors with a very honored guest, Norby Lara. So I'll do the first two pretty quickly, and then we'll turn it over to Joe, who will introduce Norby. So, next slide. Come on. So, for those of you who are not aware, we had a March Madness contest. So the whole deal was that Ed and Joe and I, Joe and I had a contest whereby anyone who got a higher score on the March Madness brackets, we're going to get an Ascension duffel bag. That was the deal. The top prize was going to be a jacket. So that was the deal. So I came back. I think I was traveling someplace, and so I came back, and this is the picture that was on my door of the bracket contest. You can see Jennifer Spoon, #1, on my door. And Joe and Ed, a respectable #9, but still not in the lead. And there are actually about 95 people that participated. So good turnout, and thanks to everyone who participated. So next on, yes. So key stats: 95 entries, 1 queen of the brackets, this is Jennifer Spoon, which I get to hear about all the time. And by the way, as this was going on, so as each game was going on, she would send a text in the game to Joe and I saying, "Hey boys, how do you like me now?" So we'd hear it over and over and over again. So, but congratulations, very, very well done. So the original deal we did was the first prize was going to get an Ascension jacket, and then anyone that score higher than Joe and I, we're going to get an Ascension duffel bag and cooler. So Jennifer kept on pointing out she already had a jacket, so she wanted something else. Well, I said, well, it's like, you know, if someone gives you a prize, let's say the prize is $50, right? And we said that we were going to give you another $50. So, like, you wouldn't be like, well, I already had $50. I wouldn't want another $50. Like, right, exactly. So anyway, but we still heard her, so we decided to do something a little bit different. So, and also I want to point out, since Joe and I did so fabulously well, top 10%, right? And so, and we actually did want to give out duffel bags. We didn't want to, you know, we didn't want to keep our duffel bags and be stingy. We actually decided to change it up a little bit. So we decided to give Jen an iPad. Actually, I didn't bring it with us, but an iPad Mini Retina, so we will give it to you. We actually have it. And then second place was Kathy Spain in Florida, so she's going to get an Ascension jacket. And then for anyone else that participated, whether or not you were above us or below us in score, you're still going to get an Ascension duffel bag, which I think Matt has got on order. I think it'll be here, I think, in like another week or so. So we'll make their way around the system. Probably in another 2 weeks or so you should have them. And so they're pretty cool. So I want to say thanks to everyone who participated. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully it'll be an annual tradition, except for the part with Jen beating us so All right, next slide. All right, so I just want to do a couple things on finances. This will make this really, really quick. So keep on going. Short story, this is the results through March. We're actually having a very good year. So if you look at where we are, budget versus actual year-to-date or budget, and this is in terms of EBITDA, the fancy word for profit, We're supposed to be at 2.1 million. We're about 3.5 million. So that's a great result. Now, so first of all, thank you for everyone for doing that. It's a slight bit misleading because some of that is a little bit of timing, but even if we take out the timing factors, we're still above budget by about $700,000 or $800,000. So it's still a really good story. And then let's take a look at where we were versus last year. Next slide. I did. Okay, great. So it's actually a very similar story. So we're actually up again for where we were last year to this year. We're up a good bit as well. So if you look at it where we thought we were going to be in terms of budget, great. If you look at where we were last year versus this year, overall company-wide, we're doing very well. And then if you want to look at it on business unit by business unit, this is going to be my favorite slide. Every single business unit in the company is doing better than budget. Every single one. That's just a fantastic result. And basically, what you want to see is the orange bars or the yellow bars that are higher than the blue bars. And you look, every single one that's true. So again, I just want to say thank you to everyone for making that happen. We still got a long way to go. We've got some aggressive targets, a lot of stuff that needs to happen later in the year, but we're off to a strong start. Just want to say thanks. So then the next slide, this last slide on the finances, just looking at where we're at previous year versus current year, almost the same story, not quite the same stuff. A couple of business units are a little bit below where they were last year, but nothing is wildly off. One is wildly above where they are last year. If you look over on the left, look at Renaissance previous year versus this year. That's just fantastic. So thank you to them for doing that. But thank you to all of you for making this be a good story. I like having the good stories versus the bad stories. So that's it. So I just wanted to share that with all of you. So keep it up. Hopefully we'll have more good stories to tell. And with that, I want to turn it over to Jeff.
Okay. Thanks, Ed. So I want to introduce Norby Lara. Norby actually joined us at our national sales meeting in Lake Las Vegas, gave a presentation on the Wounded Warriors. Quite frankly, it was very emotional. It really impacted a lot of us. We actually had one colleague that had recently lost his dad that was a big supporter of Wounded Warrior Project. On the spot, I think we raised $17,000. We also have an ongoing contest as well. And we had several comments that we ought to introduce this to everyone. Get a chance for Norby to come back. Locally, Norby lives in Visalia, so we actually got Norby to come up today to visit us. And I wanted to introduce him, and then at the end we'll tell you a little bit about, we've created an employee program as well for those who'd like to participate. Norby is from Visalia, as I said. He proudly served in the United States Army for 11.5 years, including deployments in Kuwait, Bosnia, and Iraq. He was medically retired as Sergeant First Class. Norby represented the Army at the State of the Union address in 2005 and was First Lady Laura Bush's honored guest. He was awarded Veteran of the Year for both the 34th California Assembly District and by the Visalia Veterans Committee. Norby has been awarded Combat Action Badge, Purple Heart, and the Bronze Star. Since retiring, Norby has helped many wounded warriors like himself transition into a new life after injury by introducing them to the Wounded Warrior Project. And he's here today to share his story with us. So, Norby.
So I have one of the coolest jobs in the world. I get to go around and just share my story. But I'm one of over 50,000 who have been injured in Iraq or Afghanistan. I'm one of over 320,000 that has sustained a brain injury, and one of over 400,000 that have post-traumatic stress or combat stress depression. But thankfully, I'm also one of over 50,000 wounded warriors that are being served by Wounded Warrior Project. This organization is 10 years old, and I myself am going to celebrate my 10th Alive Day. And I wouldn't be here without this great organization. I joined the Army because my older brother served before me. He is 16 years older. He served during the 70s, and what he would do is, instead of writing letters home, he would record himself telling jokes and funny stories about his service. And my mom would sit us all down, and she would play on the recorder as she started handing out the pictures. And as he would be telling these stories, I saw in the pictures that he was dressed just like the little army man that I had. And I knew what I was going to do. I was going to serve my country just like my older brother. So in 1995, I made that dream a reality. And I can still remember what it felt like as I was issued my uniform right after getting that really cool haircut you get, right? I donned my uniform and I looked in the full-length mirror, and there before me stood a soldier. It was one of the proudest moments of my life. So after all my training for military police, I go off to South Korea for a year, and from there I go off to Fort Hood, Texas, member of the 1st Cav. Went off to Kuwait in 96 when we almost went to war with Iraq again. And then from 98 to 99, I was in Bosnia. Right about that time, my 5 years was about up for that enlistment. And Ebron and Mia, my children, were only seeing their dad about 2 weeks every 6 months. So it was time for me to go home. So I re-enlisted again for Fort Irwin, California, just outside of Barstow, 3.5 hours from where I live. I'm just going to start applying for police jobs as I wait for that enlistment to be up and go be home. And everything was going great until September 11th of 2001, when a lot of innocent people were killed. And it changed my whole life's path. At the time, I was a staff sergeant. I had trained my entire career to lead soldiers for combat, and I had all I needed to do that, so that's what I was going to do. I changed my mind about getting out. I re-enlisted again for Fort Stewart, Georgia, which is home to the 3rd Infantry Division, a rapid deployment installation. And I knew if I got there, I could go out to Afghanistan or Iraq, and it didn't really matter. It was just my turn. There was a staff sergeant needed to come home, and it was my turn to go. So I got there in December of 2003 and volunteered. By March of 2004, I'm boots on the ground. There in Iraq, we were 35 kilometers northeast of Baghdad in the Sunni Triangle, or Triangle of Death. It's a very busy area, and our forward operating base was basically a building surrounded on 3 sides by dwellings. And during the day, women and children would be waving at you, but as the sun would set, insurgents would take place on those same rooftops and do their best to take mine and my brothers and sisters' lives. So it was a very busy area. I was only there for about 3 very short months. It felt like very short months. It felt more like 3 weeks, because we were always busy and always doing what we do. So in June of 2004, my squad and I, we were assigned to a 24-hour quick reactionary force mission, and our main mission is to provide security to an ambulance. There's heavy fighting going on in Biarritz, just miles down the road, and you can hear it off in the distance. We get a call, and we place the ambulance in our convoy, and away we go. And we're going as fast as we can to get to the battle. I'm in the lead vehicle, and up ahead I can see women and children start to run away from the road. So right away I get on the radio, and I tell my gunners to get down. 2 roadside bombs go off, one in front of my number 2 vehicle and one behind it. Thankfully in 2004 they weren't very good at making roadside bombs yet, and all it did was just blow out all the tires. We have run-flat tires on our Humvees, and we can still go for a short distance. We still had a brother on the battlefield and needed recovered. We pick him up, put him in the ambulance, and away we go. We drop him off at the hospital, and thinking it's going to be a safer route, we choose a different one. And we go through a part of a city that's normally very heavily populated. It's a marketplace, and some days you can barely even drive through. But that day there was nobody around. Again, I tell my gunners to get low. I know from training and experience we're about to be ambushed, or a roadside bomb is about to go off. Just a little bit after I told my gunners to get down, another roadside bomb goes off and it hits another one of my vehicles. The team leader gets on the radio and he says, "We're fine, it just blew out all the tires. Let's go." So we get back to our forward operating base, and on the way going over there, my radio is going off. I have missions waiting, and they tell me to hurry up. So I get back to our forward operating base. We download those 2 vehicles, put our equipment into 2 fresh ones, and away we go. For just about the entire 24-hour period, we were responding to more insurgent activity, more soldiers on the battlefield that need to be escorted out. So by 3 a.m., we have one last mission left. We have 24 hours off after that. So we're pretty excited. It's one last mission. But I had no idea that was going to be my very last mission ever. About an hour in, I remember telling my driver to take a right-hand turn. And as we make that right-hand turn, my ears begin to ring after I see a super bright flash of light. And as the vehicle's slowing down, I can hear my lieutenant and everyone else yelling, and training kicks in. We need to get out of the vehicle. We need to engage the enemy. I'm in the right front passenger seat, and Dawn is right behind me. I remember I keep reaching for the door handle, and nothing's happening. So I reach over with my left hand, where my hand is supposed to be on the handle, but there's nothing there. And I reach up, keep reaching up until I feel something wet and warm where my hand's supposed to be. And I immediately start going into shock. I'm placed in a medically induced coma for 2 months. And I woke at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. And I'm trying to make sense of what is going on, where I'm at. And I remember the nurse coming in, and she said, You've just survived a horrific attack on your vehicle and your convoy. A rocket-propelled grenade was fired at your vehicle, and it went through your arm, and it went through your lieutenant's arm, and it exploded behind her. It sent shrapnel to the back of your seat and lacerated your liver, and you inhaled when the rocket exploded, so your lungs are severely damaged. And you also have a brain injury because the explosion was so close behind you. You're going to be okay, though. And in my mind, I'm like, your version of okay and my version of okay are going to be very different. And the only thing I can think of is, where's Dawn? Where is she? She said she's been visiting you every day after she woke up from her coma. She was in a coma for 10 days, and she lost her arm as well. I'll go get her. And Dawn came in. I remember as soon as we saw each other, we started crying because we survived. And then I was also introduced to an organization that just had been born a year before, called Wounded Warrior Project. And their idea was, excuse me, I should know better. The idea was, when they were created, was John Melia. He was shot down in Somalia. And he remembered when they recovered him, they cut off all his clothes, and he came back to the States and he had nothing. They said, we need to do something. So they dropped off 20 backpacks at Walter Reed Army Medical Center with clothes in it and some comfort items and calling cards so you can call your family. The very next day, Walter Reed calls them again, and they said, can you do that again? The Warriors love that. So they did. So there I am, a year later, and I'm receiving one of these backpacks with that logo on there. I had no idea who Wounded Warrior Project was, but that logo is a fireman's carry, and I can relate to that. That's one of the many carries you're taught to get your brother off the battlefield. And I had no idea what this organization was going to do, but they made me a promise. From that moment forward, if I needed anything, or my family needed anything, all I had to do was ask. So for 5 months, I learned how to walk again and talk again, be left-handed. And there I am in Snowmass, Colorado, a month later. And I'm right next to this guy named Jerry, and I'm on skis, which I had never tried before in my entire life. And I had no idea my life was about to change. So as I finally let go and we start making these S-turns down the curve, I began to do something that I hadn't done in years, or months, I should say, and that was smile. Because I started realizing that my life was changed forever, but it wasn't over yet. So soon as I finished with that, I started bugging Wounded Warrior Project, show me what else I can do. So they took me rock climbing and whitewater rafting and skydiving. Why I would still do crazy stuff after what I'd just been through, I have no idea. And then they introduced me to the greatest game ever known, which is golf. And there is nothing like the look on someone's face when they realize they just got beat by a one-armed man. I have led an incredible life, and I am blessed beyond words, beyond measure. I've been witness to this organization change a lot of lives and save a lot of lives just like mine. And we can't do it without people like Ascension inviting us over so I can share my story. I want to share a quick video with you from last year and what we've been doing.
Very odd.
That's okay.
Can you click and get my bit? Click on that other thing you all can. There we go. Okay, and then what? Turn off the light. Okay. In the middle. $100,000. That's how many we're going to serve by 2017. Like I said last week, we just hit 50,000. What we do is we take a holistic approach to their healing, and it's mind, body, economic empowerment, and engagement
We send them back to school. We help them get jobs. We will buy their suits. We will pay for their travel if it's far away for their interview. We provide services for their families. We give them adaptive sports like what changed my life. We give them all the tools that they need to lead happy and healthy and successful lives as they return back to their communities and alongside the family members that have been waiting for them to come home. I could not do enough for this organization for what it did for me. For when I was the lowest in my life, this organization was always there, and they've always kept their promise. And their mission is to honor and empower their wounded warriors and to make this generation the most successful and well-adjusted generation of wounded veterans in our nation's history. As a nation, we have made mistakes. We need to take care of our warriors when they come home. And we do this without one dime from the government. Because if the government gives you money, they get to tell you how to spend it. And they're not good at spending their own money, right? So as we keep growing, you'll continue to see more programs, more than just the 20 that we have. And our latest one this year, when I was on Soldier Ride, and I'll wrap up with this. When I was on Soldier Ride last week, I was at the White House. It was 5 days altogether that we took 41 wounded warriors and some of their guests. 2 of our warriors had severe brain injuries, and their moms were there to take care of them. And we provided them with tandem bikes so their moms could be on the front and the warrior could be on the back, and they could be on the ride along with us. And as I'm looking at these warriors, the only thing I can think of is, what's going to happen to them when their moms are gone? We just made a $30 million commitment. It's called the Long-Term Care Trust. And it says when their families are no longer able to take care of them, we will. They will never be put away to be forgotten. We will take care of them. But that's what we're doing as an organization. That's what we need to do as Americans. So keep repaying them. There's not enough we can do for them. Anyway, thank you very much for allowing me to come and share my story today.
I think one of the most incredible things about Norby's story is that he was on the battlefield saving his brothers and sisters, and he's still doing it today. 10 years later, he's still out there doing everything he can for them and saving them. And what you do is incredible, and who you are is incredible. So we actually we've created an opportunity for everyone, if you would like, to through employee contribution to donate to the Wounded Warriors Project. I think Kendra or myself are going to send an email out later today on that. There is also a pamphlet here, and I'm assuming we have the pamphlets in the other operations, other offices as well. There they tell you a little bit more about it, etc. But we are going to set it up as an employee deduction if you would like to do so. Clearly voluntary. I think what they do, how they do it, and the spirit of people that are doing it is just incredible. And it was something that both myself and a lot of other people were moved by, and we wanted to participate in, and we wanted to bring to all of you. So with that, Norby, thank you so much for coming. Great to see you again. And we'll sign off. Thanks, everyone.